Sunday Night Football, where the Vikings handle business against Joe Flacco and the Colts 21-13. Sam Darnold, it wasn't always pretty, but he ends up in fantasy with 3 touchdowns, Matthew. And a lot of the passes seem to go to Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold looked great. Listen.
Did he though?
He didn't look great, but he did enough.
He was much better in the second half than he was in the first half.
First half was very Nick Mullins-y.
Yeah. But he's now got multiple touchdown passes in 6 of 9 games so far this season, at least 18 fantasy points in 5 of the last 7. Season highs, ultimately, Jay. Ultimately, in this game, he winds up with season highs in completions, attempts, and passing yards. So, yes, I do think in the second half, I thought he did just enough. Like, are there plays that he would like back? He did not look great in the first half. I get it. But, listen, if you've been riding Sam Darnold, I think you feel good about it, especially when look at their upcoming schedule, right? They're at Jacksonville next week. You like that. At Tennessee. Solid defense doesn't scare you. They're at the Bears. That's a tough place to play. But then they're home to Arizona. Arizona's a plucky defense, but, again, not one where you're just like, right, exactly. So here's the as you see it here, upcoming schedule. The fantasy playoffs are kind of interesting here as we start looking towards the trade deadlines and fantasy leagues coming up. Fantasy playoffs, they play the Bears on Monday Night Football in Week 15. They're at the Seahawks in Week 16. You like that matchup, but then home to the Packers in Week 17. So it's a little dicey.
Yeah, it's strange with the Vikings because they didn't look great last night. It wasn't a super impressive win, but I think they're going to be favored in their next 8 games. That's just the nature of the schedule. And also Lions might have the 1 seed clinched by Week 18, so they may just be favored in every single game the rest of the season. Despite, they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team though.
Yeah, Aaron Jones was workmanlike, didn't have a huge game here. Justin Jefferson doing Justin Jefferson things. To me, I think the biggest thing, obviously, was the return of T.J. Hockenson. In his first game back, guys, 63% route participation. He actually ran a route on 78% of his snaps. So when he was out there, he was running a route as well. Josh Oliver actually ends up with a nice game, the other tight end there. 558 and a touchdown, but you have to figure that, as Hockenson gets back into the flow of things, some of the work that went to Oliver is going towards T.J. Hockenson.
All right, let's talk about Flacco. He was atrocious.
You've been waiting
he
too long.
was horrific.
How long have you been waiting?
You're so excited for this one.
So good.
The floor is yours.
When he missed the dump off, he missed multiple dump off passes on third downs. What are you doing? He had one for your bet for Jonathan Taylor that's wide open.
Yeah.
All the time in the world, and you would have cashed it. It was in the first quarter.
Yeah,
would have been over.
So, that was my best bet on Football Night in America was Jonathan Taylor over 15.5 receiving yards, which, again, given his nature to dump off, given Taylor's usage, and the way the Vikings bring pressure, I thought, this feels pretty good.
He had 5 targets.
He was second on the team in targets.
Yeah. Why isn't he out there at the end instead of Trey Sermon as well? Trey Sermon was getting the yards.
Trey Sermon caught, when they were on that last drive, they finally dump it off to Trey Sermon. By the way, there was another one that could have cashed the bet where they threw it to Jonathan Taylor and he just dropped it.
Yes.
It just hits him in the numbers. And I'm just like...
The curse.
That's what it wasn't meant to be.
It's the curse.
If you told me Jonathan Taylor was getting 5 targets, you'd been like, of course, he's going to get 15.5 receiving yards.
Yeah.
He had 11 on the very first one, and then because the Colts can't block, he loses 4 on the second one. Anyway, I was very, very frustrated. My bets have generally been good this year, but my Football Night in America best bets have just been
those ones.
ice
They
cold.
matter the least, though.
Nobody watches that show.
It's
so
so
you're fine.
awful. It's so awful.
Yeah.
It's ice cold. I can't even look at my mentions. It's just it's
brutal. Last thing I'll say on Flacco.
Anyway, but yes, Flacco looked terrible.
He was the same guy last year. He was just getting lucky. He was just getting lucky on these stupid jump balls down the field against bad defenses. He's the same guy. He makes these ridiculous decisions constantly. He's awful pick, missing open guys underneath. And look, I don't think he's it just doesn't make sense to play him over Richardson. What's the upside? He's better than Richardson. He's not that much better. This team's not winning the Super Bowl. Just put Anthony Richardson in there and see what he has.
Well, the sell was that he's going to win them enough games to make the playoffs, and he watched last night, and nobody feels that way anymore. So they might be back to Richardson in 2 weeks.
The only argument for not going back to Richardson is just sort of the Mac Jones argument, which is how much of this kid's confidence do you want to? Because look at their upcoming schedule: home to Buffalo, at the Jets, home to Detroit, at New England. Those are 4 very good defenses in a row. And my point is you already benched him and you hurt his confidence. Now if you bring him back and he struggles for another stretch, then it's just like, are you messing up you know what I mean? Like, you're better off throwing Joe Flacco out there and
throw him to the wolves. I want Flacco out there. I want him getting pummeled like a grape over and over again, and then we bring Richardson back in after they get crushed by the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just it's tough. I don't know that there's any takeaway here, even in a game in which was a great matchup. Josh Downs only 6 for 60. Taylor and Downs, I feel like, are the only guys you can feel comfortable in starting with the Colts going forward. Again, when you think about this upcoming schedule, it's tough. For people that were hoping for Flacco magic again, the way he had last year with the Browns, that's not going to happen. I don't think Pittman or Alec Pierce or any of the other complimentary Colts players are viable.
Some notable injuries we're tracking from Week 9, and we will continue to update you on throughout the week. Caleb Williams is dealing with an ankle. Dak Prescott with that hamstring. CeeDee Lamb with a shoulder injury. A.J. Brown left the game with the knee. Thought he would come back in the second half when he came out with the team. He ended up not playing, went back in. Drake London left the game early with a hip injury and did not return. Chris Olave with that awful concussion. Hoping for the best for Chris Olave and his road to recovery. Keon Coleman with a wrist injury, who also had a brutal drop turned interception in that game. So a tough outing for Keon Coleman. We'll keep an eye on all these injuries throughout the week.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.